everyone. It is my joy to be here today, and I just by segueing from Reverend Trish, her beautiful introduction is that she is one of my most amazing teachers, and she has walked with me through some very intense growth processes where I really had to like lean into her vibration and just lean into the energy of God all around that she so beautifully expressed for me. So I thank you. I carry you always with me because there are times when I can hear phrases from you in my head as I go along, and I'm always grateful for you. So thank you. You too, Nick? So I'm grateful to be here. Life has been very, very intense and very interesting for me, and amazing. And you know, when I talked with Reverend Trish about coming out and sharing, and then about the overall topic for the month, and I sat with the idea of, well, what am I saying about life today? What is it that I'm called to share today with myself and our entire community as we sit together expressing God through each one of us? What is it that is to come up? And the first thing that came up for me was just how overflowingly bountiful and good life really is. And that there really is no space. We teach the children to pray, and we teach them when they're very small to say, there's no spot where God is not. And that once we tune into that as beings, we can really live our lives from this place of overflowing goodness, of bounty and joy, where even in the most challenging moments, even when there's pain or anger or frustration or a sense of lack of direction or anything that feels outside of centered and focused and fully aligned, that we can be aware that even there, God is. And when we stand in that awareness and know absolutely that every step that we're taking in the path of God, because we are God expressed. We are the absolute expressions of the presence, of the light, and the energy of the Most High. So when we know this, and we walk from that place, we start to live our lives experiencing every single process, every journey, every little bit of our lives as God expressed. And that is the thing that I always try to remind myself as I'm standing in this awareness, that my life is full to overflowing. Part of that is because I choose to say yes a lot. Like there are people that get up and go to work and pay their bills, and they go home, they watch the news, they have a drink, they take a shower, and they go to bed. And they do that every day, and they do that every day. And I'm not knocking that, because you know what? Those people are necessary and important for what it is that they do in the world. And for me, that's not what I was called to do. And I got really clear on that early, that when Spirit called me to come across the country, to come to DC for law school, that Spirit was, I said yes. And got on a plane, packed all my stuff, had it shipped over. When Spirit called me to say, you have to find a spiritual community, and I started driving around the Beltway to find a CSL in the area, and it was like a 45-minute drive sometimes just to get there, that I was saying yes to my spiritual growth. I was saying yes to being of service to a community, to learning something or expanding my knowledge in a way, whether it was at law school, whether it was doing a business degree, whether it was sitting in classes at a community. I was saying yes, and every time that I said yes, it expanded my abilities. It expanded what I could show up for. I said yes to exercising. I always share this because there was this point where I was like a whole lot of pounds more than I am right now. And it was that I wasn't feeling good in my body. I couldn't move around. And I said yes to health and wholeness. And I had to get up off the couch and participate, because we always talk in our communities and our faith that you treat and you move your feet. So part of it is sitting and becoming aware of what is it that I am desiring for myself. What is God's highest idea for me? What am I here to do? What have I come to do today as this expression that I am? And when I stand in that awareness, then I become really clear on what my next steps are. And sometimes my next step is simply getting off the couch. Just get up, stand up. Okay, now what? Turn off the television. Oh, okay, turn off the social media. maybe that's my next step. Whatever that thing is, I get rightly guided when I align myself in spiritual practice. And this is what came through for me this morning as I was running. It was 29 degrees. It was cold. And I was running, and I was thinking, okay, now I'm getting ready to share. Please use me. And I know that God has already, created the way for what is to be said today. And then what came up was, every single thing requires nurturing. I stopped running. I was like, wait, what? What did you just say? And it came through. Every single thing requires nurturing. My spiritual connection with the God within, with the God self, requires me to get up and take all of the necessary steps to be and remain aware of who I am. There is a prayer practice that I must engage in. There is the silence of being still and taking time to be still with one's own self to really become aligned with what is mine to do today. And so there's that practice. There's a practice of life visioning, really sitting down and allowing myself to become still and say, what is God's highest idea for my life? And then stand in that awareness that God's highest idea for my life is coming through when I'm still enough to listen to the energy of the Most High, calling me forth to do something, to say yes, to be. And everybody has this thing, and how I know is because even before I started spiritual practices, I was battling against it. I was like, wait, what? No, I'm not doing that. I remember I was going to a church in LA, I was going to Agave, and I was like, I'm not taking those classes with Michael Beckwith. Everybody wants to take foundations and run up to the stage and say, hi, Agave, my name is so-and-so. And I was against it. I was like, no, I'm not doing it. And I fought because I wasn't aligned in my spiritual center. And it wasn't about the community. It wasn't about who was there or what was there, but it was what God was calling me to do, to become aligned with truth. And it was like, oh, when I finally surrendered, I was exhausted. I was tired because I fought against becoming I went to classes with Reverend Trish for years without being a practitioner. I was like, that's not my direction, that's not my journey. I'm taking classes because I like classes. And then all of a sudden I was at the end of all the prerequisites and it was like, well, now what are you going to do? It was like, oh, okay. I'll take the prac one because, that's a one-year commitment. It's not a thing. I can take these classes. It doesn't mean I have to get licensed. It doesn't mean I have to do any of this. But what I have always been willing to do is say yes. Even when I struggled and went kicking and screaming, I would still say yes and show up and trust that simple things. When I get out of bed and swing my feet down, the ground will rise up to meet my feet. It'll be there. Trust in that. Trust in that when I get up and I go outside and sit on my patio or my balcony or at this point just in the living room peering out the window because it's 29 degrees. I know that there's stillness there, that there is an energy and a vibration that's greeting me, that's waiting to embrace me and support my yes. So it gives me all this energy that wakes me up at 4:26 every single morning. 4:26, I open my eyes and lay in bed. I'm like, okay, ancestors, I'm feeling it. All right, and then all of the things that are mine to do gets downloaded, and I just lay there for like 20 minutes going, okay. Sometimes things I never even thought of because it is my spiritual practice to wake up and listen first. Before I jump out of bed, before I grab my cell phone, before I go look at anything, before I check on my kids, my spiritual practice is be still and know. So I wake up every single morning, and there's a whole backstory to that, but not today. 4:26 a.m. I used to play this game with myself, peek out one eye to make sure it was really 4:26, because it had become a pattern. But then I surrendered to it because it was like, it's 4:26. The stillness of the morning, right? Let's just listen to what is yours to do today. And sometimes things come through that I hadn't even remembered I had to do. Because I'm now being still, and all I have is the voice of God coming from deep within me saying, okay, this is what we're doing today. It's a spiritual practice. I don't move, I don't get out of bed until 4:55. Then I get up and it's like, okay, let's do all the teeth brushing and go meditate and do those things. But because I made that a practice, I'm able to show up for this abundant life that I live. And all the stuff that I do, serving in sure my children, I'm like mommy lift. My kids get delivered and dropped off to all different places. And I'm like, where are we going? What are we doing? Dance class? We're writing what? And I'm able to show up for them because I have these practices. But even so, and even with all of that being a part of the gift of how I show up, the more important thing is that I made a commitment. When I started practitioner year 2 with Reverend Trish, I made a commitment that I was going to show up and be of service to all mankind. And that everywhere that I go, I would demonstrate the power and presence of God in all of my actions. And so even when I am like melting down because I have pushed myself to the limit, and now physically my body's like, okay, we're going to shut you down because you won't stop. Or even in those moments when I feel like I've taken something on that feels like so much bigger than me, I am able to remind myself, the expression of God is happening right now, even in your frustration, even in your breakdown that's about to be a breakthrough. Even in those moments, there God is, right there with you right now. Remember who you are. Remember that you are the image and likeness of God. What does that mean? Remember that you are the very substance of God itself. Every part of you, every aspect of your being is God. So when you're living this overflowing life and you say yes to more than going to work, paying your bills, watching the news, and going to bed, when you say yes to show up and deliver every untapped gift and talent that you have within your being, you start to get opportunities rising up for you to show up in such incredible ways, because the universe says, here you go. You said yes, here's all you need. And so everything that you need comes rushing up, and you were rightly guided. Coming again this morning as I was coming down the hill, thinking about grace and ease. What is grace and ease? I had to stop again because it's like, ease isn't easy. What? What does that mean? It's ease. It's like the root word of easy. What do you mean ease isn't easy? Ease is opportunity. Ease is ways being made available for you. Ease is not the easiest path. Grace is the light shining for you to see your next step. But ease is the thing that allows you to move through your experience. So even in a place where you feel it's negative, where you feel it's dark, where you feel fear, where you feel anxiety, even there, grace and ease makes itself known. Because you're tapping into practices. You're praying, you're meditating, and no matter what reveals itself as your experience or the experience of those around you, grace and ease is always present. Sometimes grace is just lighting up the nexus square in front of you for you to like, okay, I can step right here. And that might be all the grace you need to propel you into your greater yet to be. So it is all present for you to live an overflowing, abundant life that is about a thriving, energetic goodness. Because what I know about the people who have chosen to go to work, pay their bills, come home, watch the news, have a drink, go sleep, and get up and rinse and repeat, those people are not living in a thriving, abundant life because they haven't even taken the moment to tap into all of their other gifts and talents, all of the other ways that they can show up, their creative genius, their ability to shift the planet, to pass love on in a way that is then replicated throughout the world, to share beauty, to share joy, to experience all of life around us. And when we say yes, incrementally, whatever it is that we are able to handle at our yes, Spirit provides, and then we expand. And then we can say yes to another thing. And all of a sudden, you're not just on the couch watching the news. Matter of fact, you don't have time for the news because you are now expanded into, it's time to go experience joy. It's time to go spend time with those I love. It's time to go nurture this relationship or that relationship. I mean, it's great to know a lot of people. Like one of the things that social media does, it gives you a lot of friends. You'll have 3,000 friends and think you're like a big shot. Right? But those 3,000 friends, how many nurtured relationships exist? How many nurtured, we are working together, walking together, sharing music together, creating art together. We're having conversations. We're walking each other home through the darkness of the night or through the sunlight. We're basking in the joy of a great gentle breeze. How many relationships are we nurturing in that way? But social media has given us another way to stay on the couch, right? And tell ourselves that we've got a lot of friends. Coming from a town where you know a lot of people is another way to act as if, you know, you've got all these great relationships. But what are you nurturing? How are you nurturing that abundant life? How are you nurturing your gifts and talents? And it begins with nurturing your relationship with Spirit. Nurturing your relationship with the truth that is within you, with all that you know that God is. And when you start there, you start with prayer, you enter into meditation, you begin with right where you are. If it's all you have is 1 minute of being still, sit for that 1 minute and allow yourself to engage in the stillness and just be present with it. Be present for it. And then watch the time expand to 2 minutes. And watch it expand to your opportunity to sit still, be still, and know that God is all there is. When you nurture that relationship and you court God, court Spirit in the very same way you would court some really handsome guy or beautiful woman that you came in touch with. When you court Spirit in that way, it opens up your ability to be present with all things. So what I do, and I invite you all to do, is to be still. Take moments and opportunities to be still. Find yourself in prayer. Guide yourself in prayer. There's so many opportunities for you to engage in prayer, engage in meditation. Take that opportunity. Be still with yourself. Be still with the presence. Ask yourself, what is God's highest idea for my life right now? And sit with that question and watch it unfold. Say one little yes. It doesn't have to be a grand yes. Maybe God's highest idea is for you to just get up off the couch and go for a walk and see other people. Maybe God's highest idea is for you to build a huge community or create a big band. Whatever it is, just say yes to the first vision that is calling you forth, and then become willing to step into activity, to step into action, to move your feet and expand and allow the universe to expand around you and give you, provide you with every single thing that you need. You will find that not only do you have abundance, but you start to prosper, and then your spirit starts to thrive, and it starts to attract more opportunities for prosperity, abundance, and thriving business.